Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris.
When the pandemic began back in February, March 2020, my church shut down, and I would begin every service with either a piano prelude or a piano and trumpet prelude.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately missed doing it. And I have all of these arrangements of hymns arranged for the piano in a concert setting. And so every weekend, on Saturday night, I record an arrangement of a hymn. And one of the things that I do is sometimes I find hymns or songs that I don't know. And the one you mentioned, I didn't know that song. I had never heard it before. I love the arrangement. But you see, what I do is homework. I printed the lyrics and I read the lyrics so that I understood the message of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Because that has to come through more than anything.
Yeah.
More than the notes, the scales, the octaves, the message has to come through. And I was so happy when I selected that. It was one of several that I never knew before. And I have a playlist, and I think the playlist is over 65 now of solos. Every weekend I do one. And in fact, just today I was thinking about what I'm going to do this coming weekend, and I'll start practicing it. And sometimes I will practice them until 4:00 in the morning because I want everything as perfect as I can make it. My mother, bless her soul, was a nurse. And when I was born, she brought me home, of course, from the hospital. And my grandmother took care of me when she went back to work. My grandmother was a soprano. She was a pianist. She was a church organist. And from the very beginning, she began giving me lessons. Now, sometimes those lessons were just singing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then she did take me to the piano, and she began giving me piano lessons.
And what age was this again?
Well, the lessons, I think, started maybe 3 years old.
Oh my, you were just a kid.
Okay, because, well, you see, the thing was, she had a deep love for music herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than just a deep love. because one of the things that I've come to realize through different situations was that it was in her blood. Her father, my great grandfather, was a pianist. He was a singer. He was a preacher. And so she got this musical lineage from him and then passed it on to me. Now, she died when I was 5 years old, but I already loved the piano at 5 years old. I love the piano. I love playing it. And my parents found a wonderful teacher in my hometown of East Orange, New Jersey, named Dorothy Earley, and she began teaching me. But you see, let me say this. When I say that it's in the blood, and I mentioned how situations have arisen that were evidence of that, well, the first thing was that I began playing music by Black composers. And one day, my grandfather brought to my house a box full of my grandmother's music. Now, as I said, my grandmother died when I was 5 years old. This box was brought to me when I was in my early 20s. And it was her music. And in the box was a tablet that she wrote the Negro in classical music or Black classical composers. And I sent you a picture of it.
Yeah.
I got it framed.
Pictures.
I had it framed. It's on my wall. You can't see it here. It's behind the piano. And so what was emotional for me was that she mentioned composers in this essay she wrote that I was performing. Now, like I said, she died when I was 5 years old. But there had to be some great spiritual connection between us that's beyond earthly.
Yeah.
Another situation that happened was I did a concert with 6 singers, 6 sopranos. And at the beginning of the concert, they came marching down the church aisle singing. When the concert was over, one of the singers came to me and she said, "Richard, your mother was crying when we were coming down the aisle." And I said, "What happened?" She said, "You don't know this, but your grandmother presented me and my 3 sisters in a concert, and that's how we entered the church, coming down the aisle singing." And so this is not just coincidence.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not coincidence. And so there is something inside of me. There's a bloodline that goes back to my great-grandfather. And my mother was also a singer. She sang in church. All these gospel songs she taught me. So I'm the 4th generation of church musicians in this maternal side of my family. It stops with him. Now we're talking about way back, okay?
Wow.
So
the 1800s, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
So now before him, I'm sure there was somebody that introduced him. But so we're talking 4 generations, because I said my mother sang in church. She sang gospel songs. She sang anthems. Her mother, my grandmother, was the one that started at the piano, that died when I was 5. And then her father, my great-grandfather, he was the pianist and the singer. And I found out about him relatively by accident. My mother gave me a picture of this gentleman. In the picture, he has a bow tie on, and you can see that his eyes are light in color. Okay. The picture was on the nightstand by my bed, and it stayed there. And one day I was looking at it and I saw this resemblance, but my mother had passed and I couldn't remember which side of the family this guy was from. And so I put it on Facebook and I said, does anybody know who this man is? I have my mother's cousin, whose mother was my grandmother's sister.
Mm-hmm.
She saw it on Facebook and she wrote me right away on Facebook, that is your great grandfather, John Henry Walker. Music, the art of music, the art of making music is beyond, I feel, earthly.
Yeah.
Because you are taking black and white dots on a page and you're bringing them to life.
Mm-hmm.
And a composer was the one that wrote those black and white dots.
Mm-hmm.
So when you bring it to life, you're bringing part of that, if not the whole soul of that composer.
Hmm.
And so to answer your question, I did not realize it for many years, but now I realize it. I know when they are with me. I know when they are instructing me and sending me messages. And a lot of people, like you said, don't believe in this, but the fact that I'm a pianist, the fact that my grandmother was a church musician, pianist, organist, the fact that her father was a church musician, pianist, organist, singer, preacher, we're talking about something that's very deep.
Yeah.
That's very, very deep. And just, I feel, just as I have green eyes,
Mm-hmm.
which I inherited from my father, he has green eyes.
Yeah, I tell you, y'all look like twins.
Several people have said that. Well, the fact that was in my blood, my eye color. I believe that there are genes that are also passed down, like musical genes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when I found out about my great grandfather, I was, wait a minute. And then I found out something recently that I didn't know. My paternal grandmother helped establish a church in New Jersey. Actually, her father, but she taught 2 choirs in church. I never knew this.
Wow.
And this grandmother, I knew her, but I never knew that she founded 2 choirs in this church. So I'm getting it from both sides.
Yeah.
This musical gene is coming from both sides. I love the piano already.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, I would watch the young people's concerts on television that were directed and conducted by Leonard Bernstein. And this one concert, there was this young Black boy who got up and sat in front of the orchestra, and he played the Liszt Concerto. And I already loved the piano, but I knew after I saw him, not only was that what I wanted to do, but because he looked like me, I knew I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the first inspiration, and the second inspiration was, you mentioned his name a moment ago, Liberace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason he was an inspiration was he made a movie called Sincerely Yours.
Yeah.
It's a very, very rare picture. But in the movie, he plays a concert pianist. And they show him performing. And he had such a love for the piano.
Oh, you can tell.
And it just exuded from him, the love of playing, but more importantly, the love of sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
That was more important, because when I saw how he smiled at the audience and how they smiled back at him, that said to me definitely that I wanted to be a concert pianist. Now, what was interesting was this. My father, from the time I was about 12 years old until I was about 17 or 18, took me to concerts. He took me to every great pianist performing in New York City. And one of the things that I noticed was that the pianist always came out with a sour look on their face.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll change that. A very serious look on their face. Until he took me to see Arthur Rubinstein. The first thing I noticed when Arthur Rubinstein walked on stage, he smiled at the audience. He smiled at me, I felt. He was happy that I was there. And he was happy that he had the opportunity to share his music with me. And from that point on, I said, no more sour face.
Yeah.
and I did a concert a couple of years ago at Carnegie Hall. And when I performed at the very end of the concert, it was a big, big concert in honor of a great lady named Sylvia Olden Lee. And when I walked out, I was smiling. And after the concert, one of the soloists from my church, she said to me, "You had such a big smile on your face when you walked out." I said, "Yes, I was at Carnegie Hall."
Yeah.
Okay. Every great musician has been on that stage.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't made it that far.
You and the rest of my family were sitting in the first two rows, and I was sharing this with you. I had so much to be thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many blessings had come to the fruition of me getting there. And so, yes, I'm not going to walk out with a frown.
Yeah.
I'm not going to walk out. Yes, it was a serious occasion. All right. But the joy, the love that I was feeling was so great, I couldn't help but smile.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Many people play the piano, but not just the piano, just in a career that they have in life. And it is possible that people can do something, but really not into it. Like they really don't have a passion, or may I say they're just going, what they call it, going with
emotions, going through the motions.
Emotions. Like they're just doing it just to be doing it. They really don't like it. They don't want to do it. When did you say, this is what I really want to do? I think this is my calling. I want this to be my career.
I was asked the question. I began studying with a great musician, concert pianist, when I was 12 years old. Her name was Sylvia Rabinoff. And I had reached a point where I needed to be more challenged in my assignments. And there was a school teacher who was a musician. He actually directed the orchestra, and he knew her. My father went to him and said that my son needs another teacher. And he was a very passionate man. He said, "I've been waiting for this moment. I want to introduce your son to Sylvia Rabinoff." I met her. I auditioned for her. She accepted me as an audition. After about maybe 6 months working with her, she said to me, "Do you want to be a piano player or do you want to be a concert artist?" I knew already. I knew her. And she said, "Mind you, if you decide you want to be a concert artist, it's going to be a life of practicing, hard practicing and work." I loved the piano so much, there was no question. There was no question. In fact, I used to give little concerts and I would have my toys around the piano. They were my audience, and I would play to them. So the whole idea of becoming a concert artist, yes. Now, there was one occasion I was going to perform, actually, the same concerto that I watched Andre Watts perform, the Liszt Piano Concerto #1. I was invited and engaged to perform it with an orchestra, and I was in the wings, and I was feeling a little anxiety. Some people call it nervousness. I call it anxiety. And I said to myself, before I walked out, this is what I want to do. And then I stopped. And the answer was yes, because this is what I had been working towards ever since I was an infant, I believe. And so now there weren't toys out there. There were real people waiting to hear me. So I love performing. I love sharing music.
Yeah.
That's behind the videos that I've done. The video you saw.
Yeah.
That was behind that. I love that song. I love playing it. And I wanted to share it with you.
Yeah. Well, you do a phenomenal job, as I said earlier. So as a pianist, I am sure that you face much disappointment and in your career and discouragement, challenges, may I say. How were you able to succeed and overcome those challenges, but also at the same time stay persistent with your career?
Well, yes, there have been disappointments. There have been challenges.
Like, okay, I give up.
No. Well, this, I don't know if people understand this, but my making music is larger than me.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I say that, you see, I am standing on the shoulders of my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandfather. I am continuing what they started and what they did. So I really don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Mrs. Rabinoff taught me I have to have the skin of a rhinoceros. I have to have a thick skin, not just thick. She said, like a rhinoceros. Okay? And so, yes, there are disappointments. Yes, there have been heartbreaking moments, but I really feel I was put here to play the piano. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on earth. And if it be, when it's time, I hope I leave this earth playing the piano.
Yeah.
There was one pianist who died on Carnegie Hall playing the piano with an orchestra.
Wow.
And so Mrs. Rabinoff said he died with his boots on.
Yeah.
So that's how I want to go, with my boots on.
Yeah.
Well, we want to take a little short break and then we'll resume back to the interview with Richard. I'm really enjoying my time with Richard on my show. He's such an amazing guy and an amazing pianist, and what an amazing story he has. And there's so much more to hear in the second half of the interview. There's someone that means a lot to Richard. Richard plays a lot of his arrangements and things like that. Richard looks up to him in so many ways. And Richard don't know I'm going to do this, but I have a surprise for Richard, and here it is.
Hey, Richard Alston, how are you? Our friend Henry, brother Henry, I just did a show with him in reference to our June 15th virtual concert. Hope to see you there. But anyway, I hear you're quite a pianist, and someday I hope to hear you play. Maybe you'll come to Branson and we could sit down and have a cup of coffee like we're doing here with Henry and my wonderful carrot cake. I don't know if you heard about that. But sure, nice meeting you on this, call it virtual or whatever we want to call it right now, but it's like we are meeting each other. And I want you to continue to do what you're doing. And listen, I'm still practicing. You never stop. You know what I'm talking about, right? Actually, I'm practicing right now for the June 15th concert. So I hope you can watch. tell your friends, would you please, to go to the StellaTickets.com and get their ticket as soon as they can, okay? But God bless you. Keep playing that piano and serve God with a gift that He's given, because that's a gift of God that you have. And I hear you started playing when you were very young, like I did. So we're in this together. And again, God bless you. And looking forward to seeing you like in person. How's that? Okay? We'll see you.
So, you know, in the beginning of the interview, I told you that when I heard you play, not only did I hear you, and it sounded, oh my God, heavenly. But if you remember, I said I felt it.
Yes.
So tell me, how important is it for people not only to hear what you're playing, but actually they feel what you're playing?
Well,
how important is that?
It's very important. I mentioned that when I play an arrangement of a hymn that I don't know, I make it a point to look and read the lyrics. It has to be a part of me. I believe once it's a part of me, it's going to become a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether you want to receive it or not, I have no control over that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pass this out to you, and it's very important. I did an engagement. Fantastic blessing. I love opera, and there's one opera that starts with a piano player, a pianist. Mm-hmm. That opera is Porgy and Bess. And the person who plays the piano is named Jasbo Brown.
Mm-hmm.
When I was engaged to play it, that part, I did research. And I found out that Gershwin didn't just say piano solo.
Mm-hmm.
He called it the Jasbo Brown Blues. Jasbo Brown was this man who played the piano with so much charisma, so much excitement, that people, when they heard him, they screamed, "More jazz, more jazz." Mm-hmm. And some people feel that that's part of the legend of where the term or the style of music, form of music, J-A-Z-Z, jazz, came from.
Mm-hmm.
So when I portrayed the character, I could not just sit there and play.
Mm-hmm.
I actually choreographed my solo. And I had a wonderful time dancing at the piano, literally dancing at the piano. And I'll never forget, there's a great lady of dance named Carmen de Lavalade. And she was the choreographer. And I called her and I said, "I'm going to be Jasbo Brown. Can I come and see what your dancers are going to do before we get on stage?" And she said, "Oh, honey, sure. You go to rehearsal." And like I said, I love opera. I love dance. And so there's a dramatic side of me, I guess. And it was a wonderful, wonderful blessing. So this is an example of, it's not sacred, but it's an example of, I had to feel this spirit of this man.
Mm-hmm.
I had to play with so much excitement. And it's not just playing loud. There had to be a spirit in my playing.
Mm-hmm.
So that when these people were dancing around me, they were feeling it too. In fact, one of the rehearsals, I was playing, and one of the dancers heard me, and she said, "Woo, I can really move to that." and I knew I was on the right track when she said that.
That's awesome. And thank you for answering that question. Being a pianist, I'm sure you've had many great accomplishments. I did a lot of research on you, and you do got a whole list of accomplishments. And can you recall? I know you said you played at the Carnegie Hall. Can you recall or talk about briefly what was your first breaking point to success?
If you asked me what performance I gave,
Yeah,
that resulted in me feeling like this is it, when I was 16, my teacher, Mrs. Rabinoff, would go during the summer to a festival called Brevard Music Festival. And they had a competition to play with the orchestra. And I won it. And I played the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto with the orchestra. And at the end, the audience erupted. and
how did that make you feel?
Well, to be honest, I was happy I got through the whole piece.
Yeah.
I had practiced it to the point where I think I could play it in my sleep. But to answer your question, I guess that was the experience of, it was the first time I played with orchestra. And we're talking about 80 musicians surrounding the piano. And the Tchaikovsky Concerto is very romantic, a big virtuoso piece of music. And so, and I was 16. I loved it. I loved the fact that I had this orchestra playing with me, and it was so exciting. The sounds of the orchestra with my piano playing, and it's a very exciting piece. And so, I got a wonderful ovation, but how can I put this? It was the culmination of what I practiced, how I practiced. So, but you see, that was the beginning. And this is something I always tell myself, and I tell my students, that if you really want to do the career as a concert musician, a performer, there's going to be one performance you'll give, and you might be a great, great success. But then there's going to be another performance, and another performance, and another performance. So the practicing doesn't stop. You're going to, like Mrs. Rabinoff said to me, you're going to spend the rest of your life practicing.
Yeah.
And what's the motivation is love.
Yeah.
Love. That's why I did those videos, because I love playing church music.
Yeah.
I love these hymns, and I feel them.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk about feeling them, the very first time I felt music, and this may sound really funny, or I don't know how you think of it. I was 5 years old, and my teacher, Miss Earley, she taught me out of a collection of books called the John Thompson series. And the first book was a preparatory book. The hands never played together. But grade 1, the very first piece, the hands played 2 notes. They played the C below middle C and the E above middle C, the interval of a tenth. I remember this as if it was yesterday. When I played those notes, something happened in me. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. Just those 2 notes. And I mention this because you mentioned the hymn, the arrangement that you liked that I played. One of the things that I practice for is that every note will have a special sound.
Oh, yeah.
Every note. And one note will lead into the next note. I learned the word inflection. I was taught to play like a singer. And I love listening to singers. So it began when I first heard those two notes. And then I was taught when I play to make color from the piano, the notes that I play. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. You did answer the question. And thank you so much. You know, I think I'll speak for me, and then I would like for you to answer. I got a couple more questions.
Sure.
The level of excellence that you have on the piano is just breathtaking. I've had people even tell me about my show. You know, it's so professional. And a lot of times people don't look, well, not that they look, they don't always see the practice and the critiquing and the sweating and the hours you put in. They think you're just throwing a video out there. Are there ever a time where you're just like, Richard, you hit the wrong note. Richard, you can do better. Because I mean, I'll be honest, I do that with myself. I get frustrated if it's not, I mean, I don't know if there's something known as beyond perfect, but I want to give it what's that old song, give it your best shot?
Yes, yes.
Have you ever had those moments when you practice and you're like, I'm not feeling it yet. Let me keep doing it. I mean, it's like,
Have I ever? I am fortunate that I live in a house.
Yeah.
Because there was one Friday night where I was practicing one of those arrangements. I started at 11 o'clock and I finished at 4 a.m. And so I practiced those 5 hours. And when I was working on my CD, different concerts, you practice and you don't watch the clock because, like you said, I might play a couple of notes I'm not happy with.
Yeah.
I will go over one measure 25 times.
Ooh.
25 times. One measure. I will go over a whole page 25 times because I want to be sure that I have the command of the notes and the music. And you see, we're not talking about technique.
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking about passage work that is very intricate. I'm talking about a melody that, as you put, I might not be happy the way it sounds. And I'm going to go over that melody until I am happy. And then I learned something. I'm going to pass this on to you.
Okay.
I was taught that you should not feel comfortable about a passage, a measure, a page, until you can play it 5 times consecutively without a mistake.
Ooh.
Now, you play it 1 time, wonderful. 2 times, wonderful. 3 times, fantastic. 4th time you make a mistake, you start counting all over again.
You start, yeah.
And so, to answer your question, that's what it's about. You know, I have my own standard, and I know how it should sound in my head.
Yeah.
So I have to do whatever I can to have that come to being.
Yeah, and it makes, even hearing you say that, it makes your playing more meaningful too. Like, I mean, I've always viewed your videos as meaningful and important and relevant and just outstanding. But just to hear you say that, I just have a different perspective now on your playing, because it's not that I viewed it at first like, oh, he knows how to read music, he can play, but this guy really, you know, he does his homework.
I was told it's called going to the woodshed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go to the woodshed and you might stay there a while.
Yeah. So, man, it's been a great interview. Let me give you one more question.
Sure.
So lastly, Richard Alston, we know who you are. We know what you do. It is obvious. It is evident. You have a successful track record. But tell us, compared to you as a child, who is Richard Alston today, and what is your ultimate objective?
I am a product of Ricky, Ricky. That was what my family called me when I was a child. And they called me Ricky until I was 13. And then I felt I'm a teenager, call me Richard now.
Yeah.
Okay. But I trace everything back to when I was a child. I mentioned those concerts I gave with my toys at the piano. Okay. And if you said my goal or what do I want to share my music with as many people as possible. If it takes me around the world, I would love that. And also to share not just the music, but my experiences.
Yeah.
In making the music, in studying the music, in living the music. Because that's why I'm so happy to have this moment with you when I can share with you and your viewers.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people may not realize, as you said, when you see my videos, what led up to that. What was that the result of?
Yeah.
And the result is not just practicing, but as we discussed, the hardships, the heartaches, the tears, but the joys. Yeah. And most importantly, the love.
We hope you have enjoyed today's program. We want to connect with you. Visit us at facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show, or visit us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We're so grateful you tuned in today and hope you have a fantastic day.